Hi, I'm Pascale. Thank you. Yes, socializing a portfolio. Well, ePortfolio starts with the idea like this is an individual piece of work. It's a place of reflection. It's a place of collection. It's a place where I go and store and grow things by myself. But we know that learning is not the work of the individual, but it is also the work of many. And that is why, there's a range of ways. And then there's also the formal learning in the formal institution, and many of us have worked or continue to work in those places which are formal institutions of learning. And then there's this whole wide world enabled by the wide web, which actually enables a lot of learning to happen and a lot of choices on how we tap into this learning. So really, this ePortfolio is very much the work of many. And what happens is that within Mahara, there are actually a lot of ways for that work of many to make light work. And so that's what I'm proposing to look at this afternoon. No gimmick, nothing's added, just what is there in this Mahara instance that you're actually currently using that is actually really social or that is enabling social, and what is it maybe in the way that it is used or that it is referred to that can be leveraged by these social elements. So I'm merely suggesting 10 ways. If you have a Mahara instance open in front of you, feel free to have a look. I haven't got many screen grabs. I'm just talking about some functionalities of Mahara quickly in this presentation, and let's decide together, are they really social or not? And the first thing that can happen is that in order to be social, we need to connect. Okay? And then, so to connect, there is the group forums. So this is your first place of socialization in Mahara, is within the group. This is where you will sort of put together the people in your group, and the group forums enable this conversation. So that may be simply question and answers, or there could be instructions. Your assignment is due, or it can be, how do I do that? Or it can be something else, because that's where the forums are. And this is where exchange is taking place. That's pretty social already. You know, I know, I don't know, let's make sense. And it's also enabling to make sense of. So that's one first connecting function within my portfolio. The other one is also that connection can be another social element, which is being able to comment and feedback. For those of you who sometimes, like me, lurk in the conversations on mahara.org, which are taking place in a group forum, there is often, so shall we call this comments or shall we call this feedback? And what is comment, what is feedback? And let's not enter this right now. And yes, there's place for, but all of these two elements of commenting and providing feedback are ways to support a statement, to support a piece of work, to actually acknowledge that it's been seen, that the production of it has received an audience of some sort. And it's also a way, by leaving this trace that and this acknowledgement of looking at what's been produced, or which is maybe a process or maybe a thought, it's actually can act as stimulation for the learner to keep going. And in providing this commentary or this feedback, and within teaching and learning, it's very much like, this is where you went, this is where you're at, this is where you may go next. This is a simple way of articulating this that can actually provide that stimulation. But when we're talking with other audiences, just on Mahara, the star rating for the comment and the feedback at the bottom of the page can be really a useful visual way to engage people and saying, yeah, I've seen what you did. I was about to say, I like, but that's not the same social media. Another way of connecting is exporting. And that's one thing that goes back to a theme that I have been presented upon a bit yesterday when we're thinking, okay, you're growing this ePortfolio, you're doing something with it. I would like to argue that we connect with people that if we have grown it in an environment, take that nice plant. It is this big now and it's in this pot, and there comes a time where I'm going to need to put it in a bigger pot. Or maybe it's strong enough so that I can actually plant it back in a forest or in a garden so that it actually takes a life of its own. And that's maybe what I'm suggesting that we could do with all these ePortfolios that have been grown in Mahara, is that they can be considered to be exported to a wider, bigger Mahara, potentially, and then they can continue to grow and take a life of their own. So that would be a way of connecting my work, where I come from, what I have done, where I am now, to another community of users in another setting, in another environment, while I still carry with me where I come from and what's made me who I am now. So these are three ways I suggest are social element within Mahara for enabling connection. Today, this morning we were inspired with knowledge building. We were inspired of the reasons why we would do these. And all this knowledge building comes back to action. And this action is centered around collaboration. It is taking action together, doing stuff together. And that is, I've had the opportunity since Wednesday to discuss group pages. And one place where collaboration is enabled right there, as it is in your Mahara now, is the group page. As a group administrator, you can decide who creates and who edits group pages within a group. And that is a first place where several people can, together, within a group, within a defined purpose, which is the purpose of having created the group in the first place, can actually go and co-create and co-construct something that they are on together, and each piece adding to another. And that collaboration can actually already take place in the group page. Another way that can support collaboration within your existing Mahara instance is the creation of a template. A template is a page which is just a frame that can help people grow their use or help them go on a path to something that they are trying to demonstrate. And a template can frame the use of something, it can frame the development of ideas and the development of understanding around something, and it can scaffold steps to something else. So we can imagine, so how would you create a template? This template is usually made, it's a page that can be created either within a group or can be created by an individual with their user account, and it is made copyable, and then people can make a copy. So if we were thinking in the totally analog work, it's quite old technology. It's photocopying. So that's what it is. And it just makes it easier. And we know that it has been useful at some stage, somewhere, to someone, to have a model to get started with something. So they're just like, okay, I can do this. Off you go, do it. So that's the type of collaboration that it can, because it's an initial step. I alluded quickly to the copy page, and that's, as it stands now, we are all able, if we are using a Mahara instance, we can choose to make any of our pages copyable. So to do that, you would need to go to the share play when you share your page, and you would go to the advanced options, and then you have a range, you've got 2 or 3 choices of things that you can allow, comment, and so on. But there you've got a button which is copy page. In my collaborative social Mahara dream, this copy page would be right at the top, and in fact it would say copy page, and then which creative license do you want to give this, all in one line right there available, so that not only I can give you, I'm really happy that you copy this, you can copy this and tear it apart, you know, and mash it and whatever you want, but I've actually, not only have given you the right to do this because it's copyable, but also I have an understanding of what it means to copy and share, especially with any digital artifact, because I have actually given you this, given this work, this Creative Commons license. So that would be something, a slight change to the existing way of copying pages. I could provide a model of something, and we know that having a model is another way of helping people doing something. It's also a way, when we provide a model, to open ourselves to healthy criticism. It's also something that allows to iterate. This is what it was like at this stage, this is what it is now, this is what it will be, etc. So it's just a snapshot of something at a point in time. So those are, I believe, some features of Mahara that which I describe as collaborative, and through being collaborative are elements of socializing all this action which is taking place around learning. I'm not on my own, I am not isolated, I'm actually doing this for a purpose, but actually I'm inviting people to come along on my journey, whatever I'm doing it for. So that's being to expressly invite people, and that's another really great thing around the use of a Mahara instance that we can see used from primary school by adults and everyone in between and in every context, is that as the user on Mahara, I have total agency over how I give access to my work. The user have this total control, is a word, yes, if we want, when we talk privacy, security, etc., but it's actually more a choice. I have the choice, and that to me, of all the features that I've come across and why I have used Mahara and continue to use it in a range of contexts since about 2009, is because as a user, I do what I want with my page, and I actually know where it lives. And I know that if one day I want to take it away, I can actually have it deleted, and I will get a certificate telling me, well, it's actually gone. It's not something that somebody else will tell me. And this is one of these magic words that we use a lot about. You know, it's around that, being that social context. It's a lot about sharing. I'm sharing a picture on Instagram. I'm sharing a 8-second moment on Snapchat. I am actually, you know, sharing I like or dislike. This is Tinder. It's not so, you know, social, but it's a type of, but it's, so what we can also share on my portfolio, on Mahara. I'm a my portfolio user at heart. These open badges, we've heard a lot about talking about badges these last few days, because yes, they have a place with ePortfolios. I'm yet finding my head around, have they got a place within the ePortfolio? Have they got a place before the ePortfolio? Have they got a place after the ePortfolio? I don't know yet, but it doesn't matter, because let's put them out there and see how they use, because it's not the way I use it that is going to shape it, it's the way how we all decide to use them in our context, which is going to shape what they become. And in the same way as what we're doing is shaping how we use ePortfolio. So these open badges will be a place where I can display something. And who knows, if this open badge, I've actually acquired it because I did 3D printed at the makerspace down the road. What is it if this open badge I got because I actually volunteered and helped at a charity at a weekend? I can actually display there. There will be other places, but I can still use my Mahara portfolio to display this. And also, it's because I can share and I can recognize others, actually. I'd love to think that an extension of that the badge issue on Mahara could actually be the user. Because we were both at that makerspace, and he did cool stuff. And I'm going to give her a badge. Something that could be possibly around that recognition that we're doing stuff together. Of course, there is this sharing the possibility to have my pages public. And that can be a showcase of something. Ta-da, this is what I did. Look at me. The link is on all my social media, on my blog, all my friends' blog, on a couple of websites. It's actually making the news. And it's a public page. It's actually around the world because it was on Twitter 70 times and it's trending. So there is a public page which is actually showcasing something. And because I'm sharing this, and in fact, if I am doing this and if I am getting from there, I'm going to get maybe some comments and feedback. Maybe that page will get commented upon in the group or wherever it is going to be. It's actually an opportunity to crowdsource the validity of what is it that I'm doing. Is it actually just for me? Am I actually learning? I had a good conversation this morning with Stephen, which allowed me to put a few things also in a slightly different perspective. And yes, why are we learning was a very good question. But here, I'm doing this and I'm showing the world, and it's not because it's not me personal branding, although why not? That's another conversation I had. It is about personal branding. This is what I do. This is the value that I can bring to you. It's all about me. This is what I can do with you, for you, that matters. And that's what another thing to do with these portfolios. And you seek open feedback. You take a chance, a slight risk. Will they like it? And that's the type of question that you can have. And therefore, you get a real audience. This is not mom, dad, my auntie, who look at you and you've been such a great person. They just love you unconditionally and you get 5 stars. It might actually be this art critique which actually says, your stuff, I don't call that art. That's for, it's a start. Okay, so this is another way, and you think, okay, great, or I'm never going to do this again, but oh yes, do it again. What is it? The next one will be better. Whatever it can be, seeking open feedback in a place that is dynamic, in a place that you can control over, and you can decide how public is your public. And there's also the other thing is that you can use the secret URL to share a page, to actually seek feedback from specific people in a different way. And when we talk about sharing, there it is. That secret URL is very much a way of sharing information with people for a given period of time. And this is another feature of Mahara that I haven't seen used in many other systems, although I have to admit I spend a lot of time on Mahara and very little time in other systems, so maybe there are some of us, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I can produce my CV, like I can do this, I can do that, and I'm going to have a letter, and I've got a portfolio pages, and I'm going to have all of those things, and I'm going to send it to this potential to the recruiter, or I'm going to send it to this person that I can do internship as, and I will revoke access. So I can give him access for a month, and then I retain control of where I am, because if I wasn't interested in you this month, okay, I can delete you. What happens to all these CVs we send in drove in our emails? I was talking of an ePortfolio cemetery. What is this, a CV cemetery as well somewhere? Where is the destroy button? Who's reading about me again? You see, so that is another thing that can be possible with Mahara. And you can target who you want to, so that can be that very person, and if they don't have an Mahara account or anything like this, you can actually draw their attention, so you're sharing with a laser focus. And that's a possibility. And something that I had the opportunity to speak about it feels like last month, it was actually on Wednesday, and it was about integration, integrating other elements. Yes, we've all put a YouTube picture on our YouTube video in our portfolios, but we can also take all sorts of other things. We can see how we can integrate Google Apps products and so on. And this is another way of sharing beyond what we are given in the first place, and it's all there, built in your Mahara instance. So while I've looked at all these aspects, which are social aspects of Mahara, how are we going to use these social aspects of a system that you're developing with your students, for instance, or with nurses, or with any other users? How do we draw attention? Do we need to? That learning is actually social. Learning is possibly informal, or use of it is informal. How long do they need to stay within the four walls for their learning? What else do they do outside? Mahara allows for this to come in with pictures, with feeds, with videos and so on, which are demonstrating a whole range of experiences which are lived and tested outside of the classroom. There's their chance. That's one of the reasons why we started using and hosting collection.com to try to test all of those social aspects. One particular evidence that some aspects of this are really social. Sometimes we think, oh, okay, we hear time and again, Mahara is not that intuitive. Yes, there's some elements. But if you can actually know exactly why you want to use this, because you have a very clear purpose, and maybe because you need to get people's conversation in one place around one theme. You know, why are they destroying the park next to my house? And you want a place where you can have that conversation and actually find solutions around this. Maybe it is a place that people will go to the tool because they have a purpose to have a conversation, or if my purpose is to show what we've done with that park now that it's saved, and we have pictures, and we have a lot of people who've put together images on the group page, then we can make a shared page. So that is my interpretation of social aspects of the tool. What's yours? Is it? Is there time?
I think a lot of, in my institution, I don't think very many of the staff who are using it with students have kind of cottoned on to the idea of it being either collaborative or something more than an individual working.
Yes.
And I think that's still a jump that a lot of them have to make.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have, but the ones that have are because they've actually designed a particular task as a group task to start with.
Yeah.
And so it naturally follows that for a group task you want a place for the group to discuss the task. And so that means they've got a group, they've got a forum page, they talk about it in the forum page.
And in doing that, actually engaging into a social conversation around getting to that. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Pascale, pretty well on the same wavelength around the social nature of one technique that I did find very useful, because we have access to an Adobe next meeting, we run a thing called Night Talk every Sunday evening. And people can apply to join the group. And there's a limit of 18, because that's how many seats are available on the meeting. But for people that didn't have access to that, a Google Hangout would do exactly the same thing. So a link in a Mahara page to a Hangout, and I think now you can live stream
You can, from the YouTube, you could have actually it on the page there as well if they didn't want, and save it for later, for reviewing. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting. That makes
To integrate.
Mahara instant come alive.
That's right. And that's where I really have that. I think that some elements that I'd like to see develop further, whatever happens, this integration is a great way because it puts things in one place. It collects elements of what's going on in one place, like a dashboard of activity on a page if we wanted to. Thank you, David.
We've still got about another 5 minutes if anybody's got any more questions.
How about the blog bubble? I just thought I'd use that occasionally as a way to sort of share information about things that I've learned.
And so the blog. Yes, well, it's called. It is called blog now in some areas. So you tell me how you have made this available. So if people haven't done that, can you tell us?
Oh, well, it's slightly counterintuitive, but you create a journal through the content area of Mahara, and then you can write journal entries into it. And then to share those with people, you place a journal block into one of your pages, and then you share the page around. It sort of uses the page as the access control for the journal.
I'm glad you have mentioned this. It is one thing when explaining, when talking with people about Mahara, when I was doing this with primary school teachers with my portfolio.school.nz, I had 2 puppets. There's a boy and a girl. There's a few pictures on my portfolio profile. But it was very much of like, content is private. Content is stuff that it's almost that element of you. It's your file repository if you want it, but it's also the thing that maybe typically you would have locked if you were handwriting or put under your pillow. Yeah, so that was like type of things that how we were working on some words that could actually come through with users who were quite young. So that was that thing. And in fact, sometimes you would choose to want to show one page or whatever, and this is where the portfolio is actually, that portfolio tab right by your content is actually, this is where it starts to become a little more social, which is where you do what you want. So sometimes it could be your ring binder of stuff, but in order to make visible anything that is under your pillow in your content, you actually can choose to display it. And that is another thing about Mahara, which is really useful because it's down to choice of the user. And it's discovery for what they need. And I think this is, achieving this balance, it is a tool, it does lots of stuff. Yes, and we can spend years and years on it, like I have, explaining it, discovering it, doing stuff with it, just tinkering with what I have, just at a user, from a user's perspective. The most I've done is maybe written a few French language strings, but it's, if the person sees the need, they will do and they will discover and they will get to these bits as well. So they can, you will see they will see the reason why they would use that page. Let them explore how to use its capacity, and that's another thing from this morning from the primary school presentation. This is what the students are doing. They are making their own pages. They are free range. Free range kids on a free range tool. That's pretty good. Thank you.
We've got a couple more please, but I'd like to say thank you very well, Pascale. It was a great presentation, and I'm certainly going to look at some of those things with our system.
Thank you. And an easy way, thank you. It's all the link to the presentation is if you need to look at it, and then you can always take a picture of the poster because it all started as a poster that I took away with me. I listened when you organized the ePortfolio forum earlier this year. So thank you for the opportunity.